They say betrayal doesn't start with lies, it starts with silence. With tiny cracks in the floor you built together, ones you don't see until they've swallowed everything whole. I was 34 when Darren and I made a pact no matter what happened. We'd open our own restaurant by the time we hit 40. We didn't have much, just an aging car, a small one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, and a shared dream that held us tighter than any bank account ever could. For 10 years, we worked. I baked. He handled finances. We split tips. We split bills. We saved everything. Even our anniversary gifts were homemade or secondhand because we were building something bigger. A future. Or at least, I thought we were. The first red flag wasn't red. It was beige. A receipt from Bellini's tucked inside his coat pocket. A place I'd only seen in glossy magazines and social media reels, $70 appetizers, $200 bottles of wine. A place where people wore tailored suits and ordered things like saffron risotto without blinking. I laughed. At first, I thought it was a business meeting, a client dinner, something innocent. But the receipt didn't list 2 entrees. It listed 3 cocktails, a tiramisu to share, and an item circled in ink oysters. Aphrodisiac. The smiley face wasn't mine. A few weeks later, I tried to make a transfer from our savings account. Not for anything major, just a down payment on secondhand kitchen equipment I'd been eyeing. Insufficient funds. I checked again. Re-logged in. Thought maybe I mistyped. Still empty. We had over $42,000 saved. Down to the cent. Every tip jar. Every side hustle. Every late-night dough batch I'd pulled when my hands were numb and my back begged me to stop. Gone. That night, I waited until he got home. I didn't ask about the lipstick. I didn't ask about the missed calls or why he always came home with cologne. I never bought him. I just asked where the money went. Darren didn't flinch. He didn't lie, either. Not exactly. He said something vague about investing in a promising crypto startup with a guy from the gym, that it would triple in a year, that we'd be able to buy a chain of restaurants, not just one. I nodded. But something inside me sank like a coin dropped into deep water. It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it, as if the money was never mine to begin with. I started watching him closely after that. His phone was suddenly face down, always. He started working late again, though he worked in logistics and never had deadlines after 5 p.m. He started taking calls outside, started dressing better, wearing button-downs on Sundays, wearing cologne to the grocery store. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed more than intuition. I needed clarity. Not for him, but for me. So I waited, and I watched. And one rainy Thursday, it came. He left his tablet on the counter while brushing his teeth. A notification popped up. A synced message from his phone. From someone named M. Bellini's again tomorrow. I've been dreaming about that chocolate souffle. And you. I stared at the screen so long the letters started blurring. Bellini's, again, our money, her dessert. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to the kitchen, pulled out my notebook, the same one I'd used to scribble down recipe ideas, restaurant layouts, dream floor plans, and on a blank page, I wrote 2 words, Plan B. The next morning, I got up before him, I made coffee, toasted sourdough, boiled his eggs, just like always. He kissed my cheek and told me I was too good to him, and I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. He thought he'd stolen my future, but he'd only rewritten my beginning. That day, I walked into Bellini's for the first time, not as a wife, not as a customer, as a ghost, invisible, watching. I booked a table under a fake name, sat 3 tables away from him and his M. They didn't notice me, but I noticed everything. The way he reached for her hand, the way she laughed like a teenager sneaking wine, the way he lied so effortlessly, saying he was barely keeping up with work, that he was so stressed at home. They shared a tiramisu, the same one I used to make him every year on his birthday. He used to say no one made it like I did. Turns out, he lied about that too. When I left Bellini's that night, the rain had stopped. The city smelled like wet pavement and expensive perfume. I pulled out my phone, opened my savings app, and stared at the $0 balance one last time. Then I deleted it, because the only thing I was saving from now on was myself. It's funny, isn't it? How betrayal has a taste. To me, it tasted like burnt espresso, the kind I made every morning in our tiny kitchen. Still served it with love. Still served it to a man who had already begun feeding someone else better. I couldn't sleep after that night at Bellini's. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks in the plaster with my eyes, wondering how long he'd been slipping away, how long I'd been blind, or maybe how long I'd been pretending not to see. But clarity is sharp. It cuts clean. And once it finds you, it doesn't let you go. I started keeping track, not of him, of me, every dollar I earned, every unpaid hour I gave at the bakery, every recipe I created from scraps, every burn mark I wore on my arms like medals from a war I thought we were fighting together. No more. I had a new war now, and I would fight it alone. By day, I smiled at customers, dusted pastries with powdered sugar, and made small talk like nothing was wrong. By night, I devoured every article I could find about restaurant ownership. Silent partnerships, private investment networks, kitchen operations, licensing loopholes. I studied like my survival depended on it, because in a way, it did. And then I got a second job, washing dishes at a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from Bellini's. It wasn't glamorous. My back ached. My fingers cracked. I came home with grease in my hair and the smell of onions trapped under my nails. But I needed to see it. How a real kitchen moved. How it breathed. I watched the head chef command silence with a look. Watched the manager deal with vendors and drunk customers in last-minute chaos. I wrote down every single thing I saw, what worked, what didn't, what I would do differently. Meanwhile, Darren kept sneaking out. Same nights, same lies, always too tired to talk, too busy to care. I didn't bother arguing. What was the point of screaming into a storm that had already passed? Let him think I was tired. Let him think I was distracted. Because behind my quiet, I was building something. 3 months in, I caught wind of something that stopped me cold. One of the waitresses at Bellini's, just a girl in her 20s I used to give leftover cookies to, came into the bakery on her break. She was crying. They were cutting staff. Rumor had it Bellini's wasn't doing so well. Behind all the glitz, the owner had been bleeding money, slow nights, inflated costs, a few bad Yelp reviews that wouldn't go away. She said it offhand. Sipping her coffee, I heard they're looking for someone to buy in. But hush, hush. They're desperate. My heart didn't skip a beat. It stopped. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m., researching the property history of Bellini's. Turns out, the owner, a flashy guy named Marco, had just defaulted on a high-interest business loan. The building was mortgaged. The staff was on edge. The chef had been replaced twice in 6 months. They were flailing. And I smelled blood. The next morning, I called a friend of my father's, a man named Anthony who ran a shell company for high-risk restaurant investments. I didn't ask him to loan me money. I asked him to hide me. We created a quiet investment profile under a fabricated name. No connection to me. No digital fingerprint. And then, we reached out to Marco. Bellini's was on the market. Quietly. Privately. They needed a buyer fast, but not someone who would walk in and change the brand. They needed someone to keep the illusion alive. I was perfect. Within 2 weeks, I signed the papers. 60% ownership. Under a name no one would ever trace back to Rachel Martin. I went back to the bakery that same night. Rolled out dough with shaking hands. Not from fear. From power. He was still feeding her with my money. Now they were dining on my floors. Drinking my wine list. Toasting under a chandelier I owned. At first, I didn't change much. I needed them to feel safe. To keep coming. To keep indulging. But I replaced the maitre d'. Replaced the manager. Quietly adjusted the wine suppliers to more sustainable pricing. Tightened the books. Streamlined the staff. I didn't just own Bellini's. I made it better. And every Thursday night, like clockwork, there they were. Her in her red dress. Him in the same smug shirt he once wore to our anniversary dinner. They always sat in the corner booth. Always ordered oysters. Always ended with that goddamn chocolate souffle. The first time I saw her wear the necklace I bought him for Christmas. I nearly walked out and shattered a wine glass in her lap. But I didn't. I stayed in the office. And smiled. Because every dollar they dropped went straight into my pocket. Every kiss they shared under my chandeliers lit by my electricity. I didn't want to expose him. Not yet. Because revenge isn't loud. Revenge isn't messy. It's quiet. elegant, served cold like Bellini's signature scallop carpaccio. One night, the head waiter came into my office, chuckling. "They left a note," he said, dropping a napkin on my desk, folded neatly. I opened it with 2 fingers. Best service in town. Might propose to her here soon. My vision blurred, but not from pain, from clarity. He was going to propose. In my restaurant. With my ring money. Over a souffle recipe he stole from me. I looked at the calendar, circled the next Thursday, and started preparing the final course. People talk about revenge like it's fire. Loud, explosive, dangerous. But mine wasn't fire. Mine was ice silent, slow, and irreversible. While Darren spent his Thursday nights seducing someone half my age over overpriced oysters, I was in the back office reviewing spreadsheets, retraining staff, and reworking the wine pairings. While he rehearsed lines like "You deserve the world," I was quietly buying the building he whispered them in. Let him think he was the one in control. Let him think I was broken, because broken women don't buy restaurants, but women like me. We rebuild with the very stones thrown at us. Marco, the former owner of Bellini's, was more than happy to disappear once the sale was finalized. His debts were mounting, his reputation waning. He just wanted out. I gave him a way to save face, and in return, he gave me the keys to everything Darren thought was his playground. Funny, isn't it? The same man who told me we couldn't afford to replace the water heater had been dropping $400 a night at Bellini's. Now, every time he did, he paid me. The first thing I changed was the lighting. I had the chandeliers adjusted slightly dimmer, more romantic. Not because I cared about ambiance, but because I wanted him comfortable, settled. Then I swapped out his favorite waiter. He didn't notice. He never noticed people. Only service. I trained the new waiter myself. Taught him how to smile, how to pour, how to watch discreetly. Because while Darren was busy devouring tiramisu with his mistress, I was collecting data. He never brought his wallet. She always did. He drank the same Malbec every time. She asked the waiter to surprise her. She laughed too loud. He leaned in too close. They were predictable. And predictable people are the easiest to trap. But I didn't want to trap them yet. No, that would be too easy. I wanted them to build their little fantasy bubble, inflate it with lies and lust until it was big enough for the world to see it burst. So I waited. Week after week, I made subtle changes. The desserts were now all original recipes mine, from the bakery days. I renamed the chocolate soufflé to Rachel's Fall, a silent inside joke. Only I understood. I introduced live music on Thursday nights, just soft enough to hide conversations, just loud enough to keep him from noticing the new bartender watching from afar. My staff didn't know who he was, but they knew what he was. I never said a word about my connection to Darren. I let my silence shape the room, because I didn't want their pity. I wanted their loyalty. Then one night, my maitre d' Sophia came to me with a smirk. He made a request, she said. Wants a table reserved for next Thursday. Corner booth, special setup, flowers, champagne, something. Romantic. I didn't flinch, but my fingers curled tightly around my coffee mug. He was going to propose. Here, in my restaurant, on my floors, under my lights, with the money he stole from me. And the worst part, he still didn't know. He thought I was home, washing dishes. Mourning a dream he burned to the ground. That night, I walked into the dining room after hours, no makeup, hair tied back, just me, and the space he thought belonged to someone else. I looked around at the velvet booths, the golden sconces, the glimmer of glassware in moonlight, and I whispered, I'm not just going to take this back. I'm going to make it mine in a way you'll never recover from. The next few days were a blur of planning. I called in my silent partners, approved one final redesign of the menu, new branding, subtle touches. But the layout I left it the same, because when he walked in next Thursday, I wanted everything to feel familiar, until it didn't. I called Anthony, my hidden investor friend, told him it was time. He laughed. Damn, Rachel. He has no idea who he's messing with. No, he didn't. Because Darren had spent so long thinking I was the weak one, the woman who stayed, the woman who baked, the woman who begged for a future. But now I wasn't that woman. I was his mirror, and he was about to see himself clearly, for the first time. I designed the evening personally, reserved the exact table they always sat at, replaced the usual candle with a sculpted glass rose red, frozen inside crystal. added a new dessert special to the menu, bittersweet burnt caramel. The twist, every dish on the menu that night would be renamed, quietly, and every name a reference to me. I trained the staff to greet them like royalty, to smile, pour the wine, compliment her dress, and just before dessert, to present a special gift from the house, a small, personalized menu, bound in leather. Inside, a curated list of their most ordered items over the past 6 months. With a note on the back. Compliments of the owner. We hope your evenings here have been memorable. The owner, me. I watched everything unfold from the surveillance office. Surrounded by screens, coffee in hand, pulse steady. There they were. She wore red again. He wore confidence. She laughed. He held her hand. And when the menu arrived, she looked confused. He looked amused. Until she turned the page. Until she read the signature. And then he looked up, straight into the camera he hadn't noticed for 6 months. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just leaned forward and whispered, "Check, please." There are moments when time stops. Not because of beauty, not because of love, but because revenge has just been served, and the person who's about to taste it has no idea what's on the plate. They arrived at exactly 7:02 p.m. Darren in his gray blazer, the one I bought for his job interview years ago, the one he swore made him feel like a man with a future. Now he wore it for someone else, to propose to someone else. Inside my restaurant, she wore red again. Of course she did. It had become her signature, her costume, a character she played so effortlessly seductive, sweet, the antithesis of who I was. But here's the thing, she was dining on a stage I built, and the curtains were about to fall. I watched them from the back room, where a small monitor split into 4 live camera feeds. Not grainy security footage, crisp, high-definition angles, every blink, every smirk, every nervous flick of Darren's hand as he reached for the box in his jacket pocket. It was real. He was actually going to do it. Propose to her. On the anniversary of the day he first kissed me, he didn't remember that detail, but I did. Of course I did. They ordered their usual oysters to start, lobster ravioli for her, filet mignon for him, and a 2014 Malbec from Argentina, the same bottle I'd uncorked for our 3rd anniversary. Sitting cross-legged on our apartment floor because we couldn't afford chairs yet, I tightened my fist and released it. Because tonight, I wouldn't let rage speak. I would let ownership speak. At exactly 7:45 p.m., the waiter brought the wine, poured it with a perfect swirl, offered a quiet nod. Then came the second act. A soft violinist began to play from the far end of the room, another subtle addition I'd ordered for that night only. It was the song Darren used to hum when he cooked with me in our kitchen, La Vie en Rose. I wanted to see if he'd remember. He didn't. When dessert time came, they were relaxed, leaning close, laughing. She tucked her hand beneath his. He touched the velvet box. And then, with perfect timing, the waiter approached, a small leather-bound menu in hand. A gift from the owner, he said, smiling. Darren frowned. He never liked surprises, but she opened it with delight. Flipping through, inside their order history, every dish, every visit, meticulously printed, categorized by date. She thought it was romantic. Until the final page. Thank you for dining with us. We hope your evenings here have been memorable. Rachel Martin, owner. Her fingers froze. Her smile vanished. She read it again, then looked at Darren. Confusion, then realization, then panic. He grabbed the menu, scanned the name, then lifted his eyes exactly where I knew he would. To the camera above them. I didn't wave, but I was already walking toward the dining room. I wore black, hair tied back in a sleek twist, no jewelry, no makeup. No need. I wasn't walking in as his wife. I was walking in as the owner. The maitre d' opened the glass doors as I entered. Heads turned. The violinist played on. And when I stepped into the soft golden glow of the dining room, I felt it power, not borrowed, not stolen, owned. Their table was quiet now. No laughter, no leaning in. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. He looked like he'd swallowed a bone. I stopped just short of their table. Silence stretched. And then I spoke. Soft. Steady. I see you enjoyed the Rachel's Fall souffle. It's a house specialty. Darren opened his mouth, but nothing came out. She whispered, "You're her," I nodded. Then turned to Darren. "You took our savings. You took our plans. You took what we built and gave it away like it was yours to spend." He tried to speak. "Rachel, this isn't, don't." I raised a hand. "I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to cry. I'm here to close the account." I reached into my coat, pulled out a white envelope, placed it gently on the table. Inside, divorce papers, a check for exactly $42,000, and a copy of the restaurant's deed with my name on every line. She stared at it like it was radioactive. He looked like he wanted the earth to open beneath him. I leaned in slightly, just enough for him to hear the next words. "This place, you thought it was your escape. But all along, you were eating in my house." I straightened, smiled, then walked away slowly, deliberately, heels echoing across marble floors. Every eye in the restaurant followed me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Because when you've built your revenge brick by brick, the final blow isn't loud. It's undeniable. Back in the office, I watched them leave. He didn't propose. She left first. He followed 5 minutes later, red-faced and silent. I sat down, poured myself a glass of that Malbec, sipped it slow, and whispered to no one, checkmate. There's something hollow about the end of a war you've already won. No confetti, no applause, just quiet. And in that quiet, the truth stands tall. He lost me long before I walked away. The night after I confronted Darren, I didn't sleep, not from pain, from release. I lay in bed alone for the first time in years and didn't feel abandoned. I felt unburdened. There was no more second guessing, no more waiting for apologies that never came, no more crying into dish towels or checking our account balances like they held my worth. He was gone, and I was still standing, more than standing. I was finally free. The divorce finalized in record time. Turns out Darren didn't want to fight. He didn't have the strength or the money. His mistress left him 2 weeks after the Bellini's fallout. I heard through someone at the bakery that she didn't sign up for this kind of drama. Apparently, being humiliated in public by your lover's wife-turned-boss isn't the fantasy she imagined. They say karma's poetic, but I say it's precise. I kept Bellini's, but I didn't keep the name. 2 months later, the grand reopening banner went up, Rachel's Table. Elegant script in gold lettering against clean black signage. No gimmicks, no flashing lights, just a name. My name. And beneath it, where stories are cooked and served cold. The media picked it up within days. Scorned wife rebrands ex-husband's affair spot into hit new dining experience. The woman who turned betrayal into a brand. Rachel Martin's Revenge is 5-star rated. I didn't answer the interviews, didn't ride the wave. I just got back to work. I built a new menu with local ingredients, added a pastry bar inspired by the bakery I once ran from 5 a.m. into dusk. Every dish had a story, and behind every story was a woman who had once been quiet. Like me, I started hosting monthly Her Table Nights, an invite-only event for women going through divorce, betrayal, heartbreak. We served them champagne, gave them dessert first, then let them sit at a table where no one interrupted, silenced, or judged them. And slowly, Rachel's Table became more than a restaurant. It became a rebirth space. One night, a woman approached me after dinner, maybe 50, soft-spoken, eyes red from recent tears. She said, "I came because I heard your story, but I stayed because I saw myself in it." I smiled, offered her a seat at the bar, poured her a glass of wine. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't rebuilding just for me. I was building for all of us. As for Darren Last, I heard, he moved out of town, tried to start over somewhere where no one knew his name, but the internet never forgets. The video footage from Bellini's it leaked. Someone on staff uploaded the moment he froze with that leather-bound menu in hand. Millions of views, thousands of comments. Some said I was cruel. Most said I was brilliant, but I didn't watch it. I didn't need to relive it, because revenge isn't about replaying the pain. It's about choosing never to feel it again. People still ask me, if you could go back, would you do it differently? I always smile. No, I'd do it exactly the same. But maybe this time, I'd order the oysters for myself. The thing about men like Darren is they don't just steal your money, they steal your reflection, make you question your worth, make you smaller, quieter, hungrier for validation. But when you stop chasing explanations, when you stop begging to be understood, something radical happens. You grow into yourself again, and you learn. Closure isn't something they give you, it's something you take. Sometimes I sit by the window of Rachel's table, glass of wine in hand, notebook by my side, and I watch couples dine, laugh, break up, propose, cry. Every table holds a different kind of story, but mine was written in betrayal and sealed in ownership. They say revenge is best served cold, but mine came with a wine pairing and a side of legacy.